The Tar Heel defense gets exposed as Carolina misses a golden opportunity on the road in Dallas.
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh boy, hey there, what's up? It's Saturday, January 3rd, 2026. Welcome into this live postcast edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you've joined me at this therapy session to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Network, the number one sports podcast network out there. Really appreciate you being here. I want to shout out all the everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Oh boy, SMU goes bonkers. Offensively beats Carolina 97-83 inside the Moody Center in the heart of Dallas on Saturday. Carolina falls to 13-2 overall, 1-1 in ACC play. For the most in the nation, and boy, did they miss that opportunity. They fall at KenPom. They came into the game 23rd. They fall to 27th. The defensive efficiency falls from 19th all the way to 32nd at KenPom, and the offensive efficiency actually grows. Carolina moves from 46th to 40th. So for those of you who are new here with us in this live postcast, we either have a party or we have a therapy session. Today, it is a therapy session, so we'll unpack all sorts of stuff from the game, big and small, and in between, we'll go big picture, we'll zoom out, we'll talk about what this means both now and moving forward, all of that. But here's where I actually want to start. Is Carolina had this golden opportunity. They go on the road, and literally last night, Louisville had lost first ACC game. Earlier today, NC State got smoked by Virginia. Virginia had lost back on New Year's Eve to Virginia Tech. Duke is in a battle right now with Florida State. I think they're just about to come back out of halftime. It's 42-42 down in Tallahassee. You saw Duke struggle the other day. And so for Carolina, it's like, boy, if you win this game and move to 2-0 while other teams are starting to take a loss, you could create some early season separation and give yourself a little bit of a buffer. And instead, Carolina just falls right into that one loss bucket with everyone else. And that's a big disappointment. Now, that said, the ACC is better this year. It's going to happen. SMU is a very good offensive team. I had literally said it on yesterday's show. This is by far the best offensive team Carolina had faced so far this season, and it was going to test the what we think is an elite next level Carolina defense, and boy, did they get a bit exposed today. So Carolina, I'll say, pooped away that opportunity today, and it is unfortunate. One of the things to watch was this was just the second true road opportunity of the regular season. Carolina had one inside Rupp Arena against a down Kentucky team. Close game, but Carolina won it. And so I was curious to see how Carolina would handle this road environment. That said, there were a lot of Carolina fans in the stands, but it didn't matter. SMU went on an early 11-0 run to take a 13-4 lead. Kudos to Carolina, who did not give up at that point. They fought back. They took a lead, and this thing goes to halftime tied at 39. The problem is that in the second half, SMU just kept going, and Carolina did not. SMU outscores Carolina. You ready for this? 58-44 in the second half. Ooh, gross. Unfortunately, this is one of those games where I rather than starting with, wow, the front court for Carolina was incredible, because they were just not up to their standards, their usual standards today. They were okay, but not great. We got to start with Boopie Miller, who had an absolute game. Last year when SMU came to the Dean Dome, Carolina held him down to just 9 points, 3 of 15 from the field, and that was not even close to the case today. Boopie Miller was in the zone. He went off. He was not the only Mustang, but he was the main Mustang. 27 points, 12 assists, just 2 turnovers. So had a points and assist double-double. Listen to how efficient he was. 27 points on just 13 shots. And it wasn't because he racked up a whole bunch of free throws. He just was so efficient. 10 of 13 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3 and 4 of 5 at the free throw line, 4 rebounds and a steal to go with it. And he only played 33 minutes. This dude leads the ACC in minutes played, and he didn't have to because he was so efficient, had some foul trouble in the first half, and it just didn't matter. Now, what's interesting is I was texting some with Tar Heel national champion Jesse Hawley, who lives in Dallas, was at the game. And he texted, what he said after the game was, I'm sitting between George Lynch and Ray Felton, like Carolina royalty. And here's what Jesse said, quote, I'm sitting in between George Lynch and Ray Felton, and they are both screaming, trap the point guard on the screen. We got to get the ball out of his hands, end quote. And that's what Carolina was unable to do. Yes, even with Seth Trimble on him. I know in this day and age, we switch a lot and there's all that. Carolina not really switching with Veesaar. He was playing some drop coverage. We'll talk about how that led to some issues with allowing SMU to hit threes. But Carolina was not doing that. What George Lynch and Ray Felton were asking for, not getting the ball out of Boopie's hands and just letting him operate. And when you look at not only the 27 points he scored, but also the 12 assists and how many other points that accounted for. We talked about it on yesterday's show, but Carolina had to cut the head off the snake. Had they done so, they might be heading back to Chapel Hill victorious today because, yes, I know it was a 14-point margin of victory when it was all said and done, but that's as Carolina kind of got into desperation mode, just started chucking some threes and things like that. It just didn't matter. And on the other side of the Star Watch, Caleb Wilson was limited in this game. I thought SMU did one of the best jobs we've seen any team do this year at limiting what Caleb was able to do. And I did not expect that from this SMU team, whose defense is not all that great. From a size standpoint, I did not expect them to be able to mess with Caleb. But here's what they did. And you saw it, or like the second possession of the game. Carolina commits turnovers on their first 2 possessions, the second of which was they brought a double. Caleb forced it. He was pushing and he traveled. And for the game, Caleb ended up committing, how many total turnovers was it? 3, I think, which is not like egregious. And Carolina only had 10 as a team. But still, what Caleb has to do in those moments is find somebody else to get it going, get things unlocked, and then he can get going. Now, he still finishes with 13 points and 7 rebounds. And for a lot of people, that's a really solid game. But not for Caleb Wilson, and not, by the way, for what Carolina needs Caleb Wilson to do to be successful. Because of, outside of now what we're seeing from Seth Trimble, Carolina's inconsistency from the guards and wings, for Carolina to win, Wilson and Veesaar are going to have to be special just about every time out on the floor. And if and when teams are able to limit them, as SMU did today, we're going to see Carolina either struggle to win or lose. And this was a great example of that. So Caleb finishes 13 and 7. He's 6 of 11 from the field, which is still over 50%, 0 of 1 from 3 and 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, 2 steals. But the issue is Caleb, for a while, at times forced some things, and then he stopped trying to force, and he hit some. This dude is such a good, tough shot maker. How often have we seen Caleb just hit ridiculous shots this season? But then over the course of the final 15 minutes of the game, he had that and one situation with about 15-21 to go. And then he only took 2 more shots the rest of the game. One of them was blocked, and the other was just a garbage time dunk with a minute to go. That was it. So Caleb was essentially rendered a non-factor. And you know what I'm curious about? I didn't think about this till right now. From that moment when Caleb had that dunk with about 15-21, what was the score there? Let me clear out. I was looking at a few other things on the play-by-play. 15-21, Caleb makes a layup, and that makes it 55-50, Carolina down by 5. And they just were never able to get closer. I think 4 was the closest the Tar Heels got down the stretch. They could never. It was just one of those games. You know how sometimes it's just tip your cap and you move on? Yes, there's stuff to learn from. But it was like there was that glass ceiling at about 2 possessions that the Heels could never get past. And part of it was Caleb not being able to get opportunities. So one of the things we said coming in is how good SMU was offensively. Obviously, we just talked about Boopie Miller and everything he was able to do, but Carolina defense exposed, at least from a number standpoint, for the first time this season. Also, not only was Caleb Wilson not much of a factor, but neither was Henri Veesaar. And one of my issues, despite Carolina dropping 80-something points, is that the offense really never looked like they were in a rhythm. That could be an issue going forward. We'll look at all of that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about our friends at Game Time. Y'all, there's nothing like college football season. You got tailgates, you got packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. Man, the CFP quarterfinal games were great on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Looking forward to more of that coming up here in about 5 days. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that's usually the very difficult part. The difficult part with long lines, having to remember logins, prices jumping up on you at checkout. And that's where Game Time comes in. They're giving the advantage back to the fans. The easiest way to unlock amazing college football and basketball tickets in just a few taps. Carolina has now a week off before hosting Wake next Saturday, 6 p.m. inside the Dean Dome. I mean, you got to get there, get Carolina back in the win column. Don't sleep on this Wake team. The Tar Heels need you in attendance. Check out those tickets and go hop in. I love how incredibly easy the Game Time app is to use. You can go from browsing to buying in just a few minutes. I also really like their zone deals where you pick the section, Game Time picks the actual seat, and you save even more money when you do it that way. So take the guesswork out of buying college football and basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, I'm going to pull up, unfortunately, the box score in real time as we get back going here. Let me also say thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch of the day all throughout the week. We'll be back with you on Monday for that. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels, Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. If you want to go even next level with the show, join the brand new Everydayers Club, a 2-tier thing that you have options on. Go check it out. The link is in the show notes. By the way, somebody asked me, no, I did not cut my hair. I've just got it all like pulled up behind me in my hat. So no worries. Obviously, for those of you listening, you were none the wiser anyway. Okay. We said Caleb Wilson wasn't as much of a factor as he needed to be in this game. Neither was Henri Veesaar. Was in foul trouble in the first half, picked up his third early in the second half. Unfortunately, 2 of the first 3 fouls were just silly fouls. And you often think, it's just one foul, but it adds up so quickly. That first foul was he kind of shoved you get a glue going out of bounds. The first that foul early in the second half could have been stayed away from as well. And Veesaar just felt like he never got into the rhythm of the game. He hit a couple threes, and same as Caleb, still had 14 points, still had 6 rebounds, which is a nice day for a lot of players. But again, Carolina needs both of these front court guys to be great every time out. And if teams are able to limit them, it's not going to be good. Well, one of the bigger issues was that, for my money, again, yes, I know Carolina dropped 83 points in this game, but it never felt like they were in much of an offensive rhythm. The game was kind of herky-jerky. It was start and stop. It was go, all of that kind of stuff. As SMU kind of took their guards were all up into Derek Dixon, all up in on Kyan Evans. And frankly, look, this is probably a biased viewing of the game for me, but I thought that the refs were not doing what they needed to do to back the SMU defenders up by calling hand checks and things of that nature. But still, you can't make excuses. You got to be tougher with the ball. And that's what that is. Seth Trimble ended up playing probably more point guard than either Derek Dixon or Kyan Evans in this game. When you look at the minutes played for each of the other 2 guys, for Kyan Evans played 14 minutes. Derek Dixon played 17. Obviously, Seth led the team with 36 minutes played. And again, he was the guy with the ball in his hands more than anybody else. And so this is a thing Carolina is going to have to figure out. We've seen Seth handling the ball more and more and more now in his 4th game back. And so I'm curious to see if that's going to be part of it. But between these 3 guys that are the main ball handlers, the Tar Heels have to get more rhythm. It has felt like Carolina is only able to get much going when they're able to get out and run and get buckets in transition. Have you felt that similar to me? I really have truly felt that way. And so over the course of this next week, while the Tar Heels are off, that's something they got to work on. And I don't know what that looks like, whether it's more pick and roll with the big guys, whether it's more sets. It's tough to say what it is. And it's weird too, because as you look at the numbers of it, it's not like SMU was just packing the paint because Carolina couldn't hit from outside. Carolina, one of their better games from three this season. In fact, the fourth best 3-point field goal percentage they've had, made 12 of 28, 42.9%. And it's not because Carolina wasn't hitting shots overall. They made 48% of their shots for the game. And Carolina shared the ball well too. That's the other weird anomaly. Made 29 baskets, assists on 21 of them. That's a 72.4% assist rate. So they're sharing the ball well. They were hitting shots, but it just felt like the offense was not ever in rhythm. And of course, the defense was not, as SMU was going off. There is some level of, gosh, it's an anomaly as SMU just went off offensively. And it is early in the season. And for some people, they might look at that and say, hey, I don't know. But I would look at it and say, this is an opportunity to look at yourself, both coaches and players, and say, how did this go so awry? And what do we got to fix so that we don't get into these type of holes? And to that point, the defense exposed. I said, buckle up, because this offense is the best Carolina has faced. The Tar Heels, in their first 14 games, had not allowed a team to go over 75 points. SMU did that today with still 7 minutes left in the game, meaning that they scored over 75 in the first 33 minutes of the game. They got to 76 on a little Boopie Miller floater in the lane. They finished with 97. So essentially like 22, 23 more points than Carolina had allowed to any team this season. Louisville has that same level of offense. Tar Heels only play Louisville in the Dean Dome, but and that's way later in the season, but you got to get ready before that happens. Coming into this game, Carolina was allowing just 63.7 points per game. Again, they gave up 97, 34 more than their average. Carolina was limiting teams to 36.1% from the field on the season. SMU beat that from three. They shot 51.9%. For the game, they shot 60%, including 71.4% in the second half. It was just not good enough defensively. Now, it's interesting because what Carolina did do well enough, and one of the things we talked about, was keeping SMU off the free throw line. They averaged 23.8 free throws attempted a game and hit them at a very high level as a team. Carolina held SMU to just 4 free throw attempts in the first half. They took 12 in the second half, but only finished with 16 total attempts, only made 11 of them. I count that a win, but the problem is SMU goes 14 of 27 from beyond the arc. So they more than made up for those fewer free throw attempts with what they did from three. And part of that is Carolina. It's almost like an epidemic through the decades, just over helping with drivers when they don't need to, leaving guys open. Part of it was the drop coverage. Then when other guys help out on the Boopie Miller drives, he's able to kick out. And that was a lot of those 12 assists. And you got guys like Washington who went, 5 of 7 from beyond the arc? Yeah, it's tough, man. It is a tough thing. You had 6 Mustangs hit threes. 4 of them hit multiple threes. And again, Carolina basically neutralized that because they made 12 of 28, and you had 6 Tar Heels making threes, and it just didn't matter because the SMU offense was too much. Let's look at a few positive things because I feel like we've just been, oh my gosh, it's so negative and things are awful. Carolina was down 9 in the first half. They dug out of that hole where SMU had made back-to-back threes. Carolina digs out of it. They took a lead multiple times in the first half, and it was tied at halftime. And a lot of that was over the course of the final 2.5 minutes with both Stevenson and Veesaar on the bench with 2 fouls. Zayden High comes in, and it was like, oh my goodness, just hang on. Don't get into too big of a hole. And so Carolina, like Zayden High scores in that moment. The bench in totality did a nice job here in this game, scoring 23 points, obviously 16 from Jaren. We'll talk about him in a second. But I thought it was good. Carolina fought back. But again, in the second half, just couldn't keep stride with SMU. This was Jaren Stevenson's best game as a Tar Heel. And yes, that is because he scored more points than he had. in any game as a Tar Heel. 16 points, 4 boards, a steal, was 5 of 6 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, and 3 of 4 at the free throw line. But it wasn't just that. He drew Boopie Miller's second foul. He was forcing timeouts in press. He was getting steals. He had great defensive possessions, like on Pierre, who was their second leading scorer. Pierre was the one guy that was held down a little bit in this game, and part of that was due to Jaren Stevenson's defense. And Jaren in the first half in particular was keeping Carolina in it from deep, and what he was able to do, getting out and running in transition. Really encouraged by that, but unfortunately it came in a game when the rest of his buddies, save Seth Trimble, weren't able to do as much. And that said, Seth Trimble leads the way in this thing, 22 points, 8 of 16 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. Unfortunately, also 3 of 7 from the free throw line, 3 boards, 5 assists, and 0 turnovers. Can take that. Seth has just continued game after game after game since he's been back doing it. This is now his second, like back-to-back 20-point games for Seth. It's just unfortunate because, again, the front court didn't help him out in that way. Luka Bogovats, a bit of a liability defensively. He helped out offensively in this game. 8 points, made 2 threes, and similar to Seth, 6 assists and 1 turnover. So we're in a game where Kyan Evans and Derek Dixon aren't doing as much. The combo of Trimble and Bogovats, 11 assists to just 1 turnover. That's helpful and important. But we go from silver linings right back to, oh boy, Carolina. Again, massive struggles at the free throw line. 13 of 19, 68.4%. And look, if you make 3 more of those and it's 16 of 19, that's a much better average, but it still doesn't get you all the way back into this game. Unfortunately, as I said, Seth, the main culprit of that, missing 4 free throws. And he's going to be mad at that. He's going to be frustrated, and he needs to do better, and he knows that. But that's part of what's been Carolina's identity this year, is a lack of ability to win at the free throw line. Even on a day like this, I feel like this brings out the bipolarism of any fan base, where when Carolina's beating Kansas by double digits at home, oh my goodness, this is the best team in the nation. And on a day like this, like here's a message I got on Twitter right as I was about to get going. I'm not going to identify who it was, but said, bad loss. They, Carolina, play with this type of effort and intensity, and they might be a bubble team come selection Sunday. Seriously. Period. End quote. You telling me Carolina's effort and intensity wasn't there? No, come on. And also, yes, if Carolina drops a bunch more games like this, they're going to fall, but they're not. Like, these things happen sometimes. We have to be, yes, this is frustrating, and Carolina needed to play better, but we have to be able to have the forest picture rather than just the tree of today, and zoom out and see what opportunities are still ahead. And look, do you, yes, the ACC is better, but if we're being realistic, do you really truly think that this Carolina team is going to be a bubble team? Come on. No. What are we talking about here? Again, yes, frustrating, but there's better days ahead. And thankfully, there are level-headed folks out there as well. This person responded literally to that tweet and said, I can't with UNC fans. We lose our first game in 8 games and people act like the world is falling in. It's one game and SMU made everything they threw up. We'll be fine. End quote. And look, the truth is maybe somewhere in between all of that. But I just, so yeah, get frustrated about today, but look at this more objectively. Sometimes this happens on the road in conference play. Look at everyone else around Carolina and what they're doing or not doing themselves. It's part of the deal. I'm curious, in fact, to check if Duke is starting to run. Yeah, Duke's starting to run away from Florida State a little bit there as we record in real time. But so what happens now? And then we'll go get some comments. And I know we're not even going to be able to sniff half of your comments, but I know there's going to be some good ones over there. Is you've got this week off. You've lost twice this season. Both of them are quad 1 losses. You haven't taken any bad losses. You're now 1-1 in ACC play. You had a chance to pick up your 4th quad 1 win and to be 2-0 while a bunch of other front runners in the ACC fall around you, and you missed it. So now you take a look at yourself in the mirror, you watch the tape, you figure out what went wrong, and you fix it. You have your own therapy session, just like we're doing. These things happen over the course of a season. That's okay. Now, if you start piling up moments like this and the defense continues to get exposed, all right, then it'll be time for other conversations. But that day is not right now. All right, there we go. Lots of comments from you guys. I'm very curious to see where we're at, get the temperature of the fan base. We'll do that to wrap the show coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel is giving fans a new way to kick off the weekend with the NBA Happy Hour, which is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Boosts, bonuses, other surprises coming at you as well. This is every Friday night from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it's becoming appointment viewing with the NBA Happy Hour. Plus, the timing of this is perfect. It's right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to your Friday night basketball without overthinking it. If you want to check out some good lines, obviously later in the week, we'll get the Carolina hosting Wake Forest line. I'm guessing Carolina is going to fall back a little bit in the ACC regular season odds at FanDuel. If you still believe in the Tar Heels, man, you better go check out that line and get in on the action. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday, again, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, I'm going to have to zoom way up because we got so many comments. Justice Wells starts us off. We need another guard other than Seth to start doing something. We could have won this game if we had some better guard play. And yeah, I mean, we talked about it, and that's there is truth to that, where Carolina needs more from Kyan Evans. Carolina shouldn't have to need more from Derek Dixon. You know what I mean? Like he should be able to just be brought along at his own pace. And so that, like, Kyan in this game, 3 points, 1 of 2 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, played 14 minutes, was -3, 1 assist, 2 turnovers. I don't know. You know, is it a confidence thing? Is it he's not ready to be at this level thing? There's a lot to continue to consider there. And we'll see what's going on with all of that. Ryan Will Adson. I was like, I don't know how to, it's all 3 of your names. Says defense wasn't great, but honestly, I thought it was incredible offense from SMU. Yeah, as I said, there is a level at which you just tip your hat on a day like this. And that is a thing sometimes. Derek Tyson says this is the 8th time this season Carolina has now played 15 games where Kyan Evans has had a game with less than 6 points. You can't have that from your starting point guard. You can't. You could if he was doing that and having 12 assists a game, but that's not happening either. And so there's got to be more there. Derek Pereira says Boopie Miller was lights out, and seems like Seth was on him majority of the time. That's correct. Our defense definitely was not on display. If we can't guard one-on-one, we'll get burned by teams that can shoot. And this is the point we were talking about earlier. Derek is absolutely right here. Is when Boopie was able to get by players and was able to get past Seth a time or two, but more often than not, it was when he was able to get a switch and then drive. Other guys helped, then he's able to kick, and Carolina gets burned. And that's tough. But as Derek says here, that's going to be an issue. Elizabeth Lover says, I think we're going to be okay. I think so too. But also, Caleb looked defeated for the first time, though, and that worries me. I noticed this too, Elizabeth, and I'm so glad you brought it up, where Caleb just seemed out of, like, you wonder if he was under the weather. Remember, there was a couple guys under the weather earlier in the week when Carolina played Florida State. He sat on the bench for a little bit longer spells than you would typically think of. And so you wonder, it does make me wonder if that's something to it. And I'm not saying that, I'm not putting blame on that, but it's just a potential thing that we have to worry about. And so I'm hopeful, because Caleb, just, it didn't feel like Caleb in that regard. So we'll keep our eyes on it. Ryan also asked, might be small, but Trimble's inability to hit free throws is very concerning for a guard who gets to the line a lot. Yes. However, Ryan, I will say that is an anomaly for what Seth has been over the course of the last 2 seasons, where he's been an 80% free throw shooter. It's an anomaly today. And again, it's the kind of thing where if 10 games from now we look back and this was the start of Seth isn't as good at the free throw line this year. Sure, maybe, but I'm not ready to say that yet. But yes, you're absolutely right, Ryan, that he does have to hit those free throws because as much as he's going to get there, he's got to be able to knock him down. And so there is something to that. Stay vigilant. I must have missed something you earlier asked, but says, this is why I asked if Schade thought this was a legit top 15, top 10-ish team, or because you asked that earlier in the week after the Florida State game. We just got smacked by an unranked team by 14. Yes, fair, accurate. However, true road environment, team that's shooting out of its mind. It is one data point in a season of data points, and the rest of the season points to this being the anomaly, not this being the norm. If this does become the norm, yes, but for now, I would still consider this a top 15 team. Maybe not top 10 right now because there are clear issues, but this does nothing to move me off of top 15 status. And if teams are going to be able to limit Veesaar and Wilson consistently, oh boy, then that is an issue, and so that could become a problem. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Let's wait till Carolina gets back home and what they're able to do against Wake Forest. All right. I'm going to continue to look through things. I know there's a lot more comments coming. Melinda Dolphin says, Isaac, thank you for waiting till after Inside Carolina. Lots of people have started asking for me to piggyback after Inside Carolina finishes. So kind of kept tabs on that and went after that. I've been comparing it to going like tonight, like Jimmy Fallon, and then Seth Meyers coming after that. So we'll try to do that when we can and when it makes sense to. So thank you for all your comments. Thank you for all your questions. I will continue to monitor those and grab anything that we want to get for Monday's show as we get back together after the weekend is over. So look, therapy session. I know it's always like, but there is misery loves company. And so it's good to be able to get together and unpack this. So over the course of the weekend, I'll continue to process it. We'll be back on Monday with our Four Corners recap. We'll have our shady stat of the game, our big takeaways from it. And then we'll start looking ahead to a week where there is no basketball game and Carolina able to get some things figured out ahead of the game against Wake Forest on Saturday. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Maybe things get better from here. I sure hope so. If you haven't subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on video and audio, do it now so you don't miss a second of the show. If you've not joined the brand new Everydayers Club, that link is in the show notes. Check it out. Let me know if you got any questions. And if you haven't joined our Discord, we'd love to see you in there as well. A great community of all sorts of Tar Heels fans talking all day, every day. I'm sure there's people talking about the Panthers game going on right after the Carolina game as well. That link is also in the show notes. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll talk again on Monday, but until then, peace.